Hey guys, Scott here. Sorry about the whole lack of videos and streams the past couple of days. I've been feeling a lot worse than usual, so that sucks, but I thought I would at least make up for it with an interesting video that I just recorded but forgot to unmute my microphone, so I'm doing it again. But I wanted to talk about speed differentials and how people perceive 110% movement speed killers to be way slower than they actually are, and this is something that everyone has done, including me. So first, let's go over the actual base movement speeds for those who are not aware. People refer to killers as their movement speed in percents, and the percent is based off of the base survivor movement speed, which is 4 meters per second. So when you have a killer that is 115% MS, that means they are 115% of the survivor movement speed. So they're 15% faster than survivors. That makes them 4.6 meters per second. Now, 110 killers are 4.4 meters a second, and for some reason, our brains just tell us that these killers are immensely slower than normal movement speed killers. But, if you do the math and you run, you set the duration and the time and the distance that they travel, the math basically tells you that they're actually not that much slower at all. In fact, running across like the entire map, the math tells you that it takes maybe an additional second or two maybe to get across the map as 110% compared to 115%. And for some reason, when you do that math, you just go, that's not right. When I'm playing Huntress and I have no hatchets, I feel like I have molasses in my boots. I can't even move. I'm so slow. And I think this is an interesting phenomenon that's almost like the placebo from, how people like say thanatophobia, oh my god, my bar is red, I'm healing so slow. But you look at the actual math behind it and it's taking you an additional like 0.75 seconds to heal with one stack or something like that. Or you're working on a gen and you've got like a toolbox, but it's like a shitty brown toolbox, and you're like, oh wow, the bar's yellow, but you're saving like 4 seconds on the gen or something like that. I think this is another example of the placebo of the game's UI basically making us feel like we're a lot slower or faster than we actually are. When you get a stack of play with your food, you move 5% faster, and you can feel it. You can feel that you're moving faster. When you get Bloodlust, you can feel that you're moving faster. But can you actually feel that? I don't think you actually can with like one stack of that. I think you see the little haste icon and your brain goes, oh, you're faster now. You see the Bloodlust screen wave with your FOV changes for a second. You go, oh, I'm zooming now. But the fact of the matter is, I don't think you can actually tell the difference between 110% and 150% with no visual indicators at all. Because the difference is so minor that, you might be able to, but the point is the difference is so minor that it is pretty much not even noticeable. So I did the math and it came out like, okay, that's barely any difference at all. I don't believe that. So I tested it, and I tested Huntress with and without one stack of play with your food. So we're comparing a 110 killer and a 115% killer. So I started the exact same spot on Azeroth's resting place, which has, I think, the longest straightaway in the game. So that's why I picked that map. And I held W and started from the exact same spot, reached the exact same endpoint, trying to minimize bumping into trees and stuff. So we'll plus or minus a second of margin of error for, imperfect pathing and slightly bouncing off hitboxes and trees and stuff like that. That's possible. So we'll give it a tiny bit of wiggle room. But the fact of the matter is, the killer at 115% movement speed took about 30 seconds to get there, and the killer at 110% movement speed took about 31 seconds to get there. There's basically no difference. It's like a second and a half. Again, plus or minus a second due to imperfect pathing. And that's basically what the math tells you as well. The math tells you it's going to be about the exact same thing. And the point is, I think we need to stop complaining about 110% killers being so slow, because they're actually not that much slower at all. In fact, it's almost imperceptibly small of a difference. But why is it that when we're playing a Huntress without hatchets, we feel so much slower than everybody else? I don't know. I actually don't know the answer, because the math doesn't support a logical reason for it. Now, there are certain rare examples where that extra 0.2 meters of distance that you would get would be just enough to maybe hit a lunge, but those scenarios are very, very rare. And the reason for that is, most of the time when you're getting a hit at a loop, it's not just because you hold W and you hold W faster than the other guy and he just doesn't drop the pallet. That's usually not how you get a loop or hit at a loop. In fact, I was going to say that works against bad survivors, but not even that, because bad survivors will drop pallets early, so you have even less of a chance to do that. Maybe against greedy good survivors, that's how you would do it. But for the most part, you're not getting hits just holding W and having the survivor watch you be faster and run, you're getting hits by moonwalking or faking things or, using your power or something like that. You're getting hits in other ways. So the speed differential for, going across the entire map, 30 seconds of just holding W is like a second of difference, which would mean the differential for half that time, let's say going around a tile for 15 seconds, is half of that. So it's like a half a second. So yeah, that can rarely be the difference between, getting a hit and not. But for the most part, that's not how you're getting your hits at loop. So even like a Huntress without a power, I'm actually going to say is actually not that different from like a Hillbilly without a power. You're probably going to get the exact same amount of loops because the difference in the chase is going to be like less than a second. And that's not really going to get you that much other places. So basically, the whole point that I'm trying to make is I think we need to stop complaining about these 110% movement killers being so much slower because the math and footage to support it says that no, they're really actually not that much slower. And this is why I talked about Clown's Gas being so ineffective as well, because when you say, oh my God, I'm moving 10% faster, that seems like a lot. For some reason, that number, 10%, it just seems like that is a huge speed boost. But when you actually apply it to the killer and you apply it to a survivor that's also running away from you, so you're not just approaching an immobile object, the survivor's also gaining distance too, that 10% becomes basically nothing for the 5 seconds that the whole Clown Gas lasts, which is why I think the Clown Gas is almost useless. It has like a few uses on very long loops where you can set up something properly. But for the most part, I think people drastically overestimate speed differences in this game. And I thought that was just an interesting thing to show you visually and, the math behind it as well. And yeah, it's just an interesting thing to think about. So overall, I think we need to stop bitching about 110% killers having no movement speed or not being able to loop or doing anything like that because they're almost indistinguishable when you actually compare the two to a normal movement speed movement killer, which is still weird. It doesn't feel right saying that, but that's just what the math and footage shows. So I don't know. I thought that was interesting because that's something I always felt really slow as Huntress without hatchets too. But yeah, not actually that much of a difference. But that is it, guys. Thanks for watching. Want to discuss this at all? I'm perfectly willing to, since I'm not really able to stream or do anything else right now. So I'm gonna go lay down. Bye bye.